Meeting to order. Mr. Coley, would you note that all the commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Small?
No.
Commissioners, we've had our minutes of December 20, 2018 circulated. If anyone doesn't have any changes, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, we will have the election of officers. Mr. Coley.
Chair Herbert, last month the nominating committee nominated a slate of officers for your consideration. You'll recall that the recommended slate is as follows. Kathy Hamilton for chair, Ty V. Small for vice chair, and Mark Walker as secretary. Are there any other nominations? If not, is there a motion and second to elect the slate as recommended by the nominating committee?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. If there's any other discussion, then all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Madam Chair, the officers have been elected.
All right. Well, it is your turn now, Commissioner Hamilton.
Thank you. It is my pleasure for the first official action I get to take as chair to welcome Commissioner Herbert's husband, Ralph Herbert, to our meeting today, and to tell you that we are very pleased that Mayor O'Hara has appointed Celeste Herbert to serve a second term on this board. So, Mr. Coley, would you please administer the oath of office for Celeste?
You come up.
You'll hold the Bible.
He generally hides pretty well.
Chair Herbert, if you will, please raise your right hand, place your left on the Bible, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I possess the qualifications required by law
that I possess the qualifications required by law
for the office of KUB Commissioner,
for the office of KUB Commissioner,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Tennessee,
the Constitution of the State of Tennessee,
the Charter of the City of Knoxville,
the Charter of the City of Knoxville,
and the Bylaws of KUB,
and the Bylaws of KUB,
that I do not have any contracts or business interests with KUB
that I do not have any contracts or business interests with KUB
that constitute a conflict of interest,
that constitute a conflict of interest,
and that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
and perform with fidelity
and perform with fidelity
the duties of Commissioner
the duties of Commissioner
without fear or favor,
without fear or favor,
to the extent of my skill and ability,
to the extent of my skill and ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
All right, next on our agenda is the President's report. Okay.
Commissioners, Elba Marshall, Director of Corporate Services, will be doing the annual process of our conflict of interest policy. It's very similar to what we do with our employees internally. I'm happy to report that all of our employees have filled out their forms and disclosed all their information, and so we have met our goal, and I'll let Elba take it over from there to present that to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bolles. Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's a new location. Commissioners, as you are aware, as a member of our board, you are required to comply with certain regulations related to ethics. And these date back to the city charter, Resolution 1, which is the very first resolution ever adopted by this board, and general state law. A brief history here provides that in 2000, a conflict of interest section was added to the bylaws, and that in 2005, KUB adopted an employee ethic or conflict of interest policy with an annual disclosure, and as Mr. Bolles stated, that has been completed for the year. In 2006, the State Ethics Commission was established, and as a result of their work, municipalities across the state were required to adopt an ethics policy by 2007, as this board did. During a comprehensive review of our bylaws, we updated the ethics section in 2012, and then most recently adopted an annual disclosure requirement for our board members, which is what we're here to ask you to do today. The ethics policy, as well as the annual disclosure, aligns with governing statutes and affords the board the opportunity to certify compliance with those provisions. Those provisions include stating that you are not involved in any political activity, that you are not violating the charter's nepotism policy, you're not accepting any gifts or gratuities, and disclosing any personal or financial interest with KUB business. Probably most importantly is that you're also not engaged in any improper use of your position or KUB resources. Should a conflict exist, both in voting and non-voting matters, a disclosure is required. Today in your packet, you will have a copy of the ethics policy, a copy of the forms you completed last year, and a blank form for you to complete this year. You're welcome to do that today, or you can take it with you, and we've provided a return envelope. We just ask that you submit that by the end of January. So moving on to the next subject, we were here this time last year to talk about board training requirements that were enacted into law. And this particular board training stated that any commissioners of a water or wastewater utility would be required to have 12 hours of training as a new commissioner, or 12 hours of training within a 3-year period for existing commissioners. I am happy to report that former Chair Herbert was able to certify that everybody has completed their training for 2018, and even for me, more exciting, is the fact that everyone has already, at the completion of today's board meeting, completed the requirement for the 3-year period. Because of our way that our board meetings are structured, that was met last year with the completion of this year, and Commissioner Simpson-Brown gets the gold star for 25 hours. One other thing that we wanted to talk to you about today are bylaws revisions. The way that the bylaws are written state that these have to be presented in one board meeting and voted on in a subsequent board meeting. A red line copy of the changes I plan to discuss with you today are provided in your packet and are primarily administrative in nature. So our very first one is a housekeeping change. The way that our bylaws are written today, we are very specific about what reports have to be completed, and those can change as laws change. And instead of needing to update our bylaws every time there's a change, we've just simplified that language that we will be in compliance with whatever law states we have to report on. The next one is a clarification of swearing-in processes. So when a new commissioner comes on, what does that procedure look like? And we're just clarifying that language for ourselves. We do have 2 new items that include the codification of an existing process. Today, the board approves a budget appropriations as well as commitment appropriations. We had the budget appropriations outlined in the bylaws. We did not have the commitment appropriations outlined in the bylaws, so we saw that as an opportunity to update and include those in there. And then finally, the last change that we're proposing is in our bylaws today, we state that employees and retirees of energy, water, wastewater, and energy companies cannot serve on the board because it could pose a conflict of interest. And what we plan to do and propose is that anyone who is an employee or retiree of a telecommunications utility should also not serve on the board for potential conflicts of interest. So, as I stated earlier, I will be back in February to review what those proposed changes are. You now have an opportunity to review the red line version. Those will also be provided during the Friday packet that is sent out for you, and then I'll be asking for you all to vote on this in February. Any questions? Thank you.
Commissioners, as you know, we place a great deal of emphasis on safety. It's part of our blueprint, it's part of our KUB culture. So I want to introduce Chris Thomas, what's his new title now? The Manager of Safety, Security, and Technical Services, to talk about what our safety engagement team has been doing over the last year and the improvements in our safety program at KUB.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rowland. Thank you, Commissioners, for this time. Safety engagement has and continues to play a critical part in our safety culture and our safety program. So it's indeed a pleasure to get to talk with you about that today. It has improved our performance. There's a lot in our blueprint that speaks to safety, and just a few of the items we measure our success by our safety performance. We desire to meet or exceed the regulatory safety standards, and probably most important of all, we value the safety and well-being of our employees and our customers. You know, these are people, it's like having a work family here. When you're waiting on that phone call regarding a hurt or injured employee, it's like waiting on a phone call about a family member. So it is very something. It's not about numbers here. It's about each of those individuals and their safety. So safety's, you know, I started in 2003, and safety's really been important my whole career here, and even prior to that, safety's been important. Back before there was a safety department, we utilized a safety advisory council. There was board-wide safety teams throughout KUB that helped to manage safety. But, and all that was well and good. We were a safe organization, but as an added commitment to safety and to really focus on making safety a core part of our culture, a safety department was established in 2004. And you can tell there by the numbers that we've had that represent injuries, that we've improved since then. And even more so when the START program, which stands for Safety Talks and Accident Reduction Training, that we really started seeing some improvements at that time when that was established in 2007 and 2008. And that program really sought to make it safe to even talk about safety, just making it culturally significant that it's okay for one employee to go up to another and talk about safety. And we really started seeing good numbers up until 2013, which was our safest year ever on record. And that was a fantastic year, except that we've seen our numbers tweak up since 2013. And we've seen a 17% increase in our work hours since then, but we don't want any negative trends associated with safety. So that's really where we started talking about engagement and how to rethink and re-involve ourselves and refocus some efforts. Last year, we were given the new safety metric goal, and one was to have 4 or fewer serious preventable safety injuries. And of course, we love to prevent every type of injury that we possibly can, but it's definitely important to focus on those injuries that could disable somebody or affect somebody's livelihood or their family for a long period of time. The next goals we had were much more strategic and proactive in nature. For instance, the Work Healthy program sought to target our #1 incident type we have, and that's strains and sprains. So through the Work Healthy program, we partner with Human Resources a lot anyway, but throughout the midst of this, there was a Work Healthy program that was created, and it has all different kinds of aspects of wellness in it. But the one that was most strategic to the safety team was the idea of ergonomics and stretching. So an exercise scientist was brought in. The exercise scientist would refer to our field employees as industrial athletes. And just like an NFL player has to warm up and stretch before the coin toss, he encouraged our construction workers and operators and maintenance technicians to warm up before conducting a job. And boy, did we see a difference, as I'll show you here in a few minutes. And then an emphasis on safe driving. Last year, we drove 3.5 million miles, and that's with vehicles like the ones that you see pictured here. So large trucks, urban areas, there's a lot of hazards associated with driving in the utility industry. But to be able to partner with the Tennessee College of Applied Technology and have CDL truck drivers from there come and partner with our CDL truck drivers we have here and get real hands-on training, driving around town, providing real-time feedback, really made a difference. And that was significant. So regardless of metrics and goals, if you don't have employee commitment, you're not going to get very far in meeting those metrics and goals. So I'm very happy to say that here at KUB, that our management is all in. And my peers and the upper management here at KUB is so safety focused, and that makes my job a lot easier to do. And I'm blessed to be over a very professional and dedicated safety staff, and that assists a lot. In 2016, a safety stewardship team was created, and this provides safety some oversight, some peer review, some ideas, some friendly criticism, and that has really helped us. But a year ago, we established a safety engagement team, and that was with employees from all across the organization that came in and were just very real with us. Hey, where we could be tougher on, where we could be a little more lenient on, things that are just better ideas and things for us to consider from the employee perspective. And wow, did we get some good feedback. Actually, you can see pictured here, one of our newer engagement teams. This is one of our high hazard engagement teams, which I'll mention in a minute. This one is purely dedicated to the handling and use of chlorine as a disinfectant. So, safety engagement is working. Thanks to the engagement of employees and the culture we have here at KUB, we were able to meet our FY18 target of less than 4 serious preventable injuries. We had 3. And our driving safety and work healthy programs exceeded expectations. So you can see there, our preventable motor vehicle accidents reduced by 70%. That is not a typo. I even checked it multiple times. 70%. And strains and sprains were reduced by 31% just by crews warming up and exercising their shoulders and other muscles before doing tasks and making that culturally acceptable. And we received over 25 significant, really good ideas from the safety engagement team to move forward with. And, it'll take us a couple of years to get through that many, but we certainly prioritized the list and got to work immediately. And we don't want to lose any of that momentum. So as we've gotten here, halfway through FY19, we have some new goals. We've got the metric goal now of 3 or fewer serious preventable injuries. And right now we stand at 1. I hope that's the only one. Wish we could have prevented the 1, but I hope that that's the only one that we have. And we've established 3 high hazard engagement teams. The chlorine one I told you about already. The natural gas engagement team shown pictured here, seeing how we odorize our natural gas for safety reasons at one of our gate stations. And then we have a high voltage electric engagement, high hazard engagement team. We also have a safety advisory council that helps us with the technical side, doing some safety research, talking with other utilities, and we're working on an onboarding program. That first year employee here at KUB that's in operations or construction or maintenance, it's a whirlwind to them. So we want to make sure that safety is partnering with them, meeting with them periodically, assisting them, refreshing training as necessary, and having a good onboarding program. So that's one of our goals this year as well, thanks to the engagement. So as you can see, it is way more than just a safety department per se. To make safety a cultural aspect here and to be successful here, it takes everybody, especially the employees facing those hazards each and every day. If you've got any questions for me? Yes.
Chris, thank you for your presentation. I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
One is regarding safety and then health, which is the stretching, which helps keep you safe. Have you seen other benefits that translate into just a healthy person overall that could help with health costs in general?
Yes.
Have you been able to capitalize on any of that? Or?
Definitely, and human resources is collecting a lot more data than that, but I know that I'll speak to this aspect of it, the stretching and ergonomics component, transferring that over to even some of our rotating shift workers is a way to stay alert and stay active during a night shift or in a time period maybe where you're transitioning from nights to days or days to nights as a way just to stay healthy. And the programs that we have for eating healthy and proper ways to exercise, I'll speak about me personally. The initiatives here, they just help you get active, help you learn more about disease prevention, and so it helps me both at work and personally.
And the second question, thank you, is about maybe somebody who is accident prone. If somebody, for example, has more than 2 sprains, or how often you let someone repeat a strain before you say, wrong seat on the bus, or, you know, because that seems like, I mean, I guess there is, you know, people joke about somebody's so-and-so is just accident prone. I mean, in this business, it seems like that would be an unfortunate, well, something you'd have to deal with.
Yeah.
So can somebody be a repeat offender, I guess, is a simple way of asking.
That's a really good question. So the safety professionals under me, we take very much the scientific approach when it comes to analyzing an injury and looking at each one independently. What were the factors leading up to it? What were the ways that it could have been prevented, if any? And what were all the circumstances? And then, as you move down the line, you know, if it's something that maybe that individual employee, you know, has struggled with before, then you start to, hey, well, is it a behavior? Is it more circumstantial? And then we'll partner with human resources to kind of determine a plan of action of maybe getting that employee some more assistance, or, you know, more direct supervision when they're doing a job, or changing up their tasks a little bit to prevent that. The main thing we want to do is prevent an incident like that from happening again, whether that's to another crew member or that individual themselves. We hope that when we come up with our mitigations, that we're able to say, yeah, because of these mitigations, this should not happen again.
And I'll echo exactly, we do look at that. A lot of times we involve the crew leader, it's on the crew, because sometimes that's, you know, encouragement by team versus individual. But if it's something that keeps being a problem, we will not let it continue to be a problem. You know, we'll look for another assignment or another opportunity, but we do not want that to be a trend or thing. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioners, is one of our things in our blueprint that we talk about a lot is participating in the communities we serve. And I want to introduce Leslie Hartzell, Director of External Affairs, to let you know what our employees did this last year in the community and throughout Knoxville.
Thank you, Mr. Bovis. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have some good news to share with you. I just want to give you a brief update on our community outreach efforts for 2018. Of course, this is a very familiar slide that you see frequently, but I truly want to say, I think the blueprint speaks to who we are as an organization, and that we truly do believe, as part of one of our shared values, that it's important that we give back to our communities and that we participate. And so I want to share just some brief highlights of what our employees have been doing over the past year. I think the headliner speaks volumes. Our employees this year alone volunteered more than 3,500 hours in a variety of capacities throughout our community. You may recall back in 2015, we officially implemented our vol time policy, but I do want to preface that with saying that our employees have been involved in the community for a long time. This was just an official way for us to document those hours and what our employees are doing. Just a reminder, each employee here, full-time employee, gets 8 hours per year that they can volunteer in a variety of different organizations throughout our community. This year alone, we had more than half our workforce, a little over 500 of our employees participated in volunteer opportunities that was promoted. One of the ways that we're able to do this is through our KUB Cares Committee. And our KUB Cares Committee is really the backbone. They are the representatives throughout KUB that help spearhead our volunteer efforts. They promote, they coordinate, they work with agencies to try to find a variety of diverse opportunities so that we can reach out to our construction guys who like to build, to our office workers who might want to just go volunteer at an animal shelter. So they're constantly looking for opportunities and partner with agencies so that we can continue to offer those diverse opportunities for our employees. Here's just a snapshot. Like I said, we volunteered at more than 25 agencies for 2018. Some examples. The Howard Circle of Friends, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That is a program with the Alzheimer's Association. And so our employees had the opportunity to go out and spend time with patients. It's kind of like a daycare where you can go and you can do games with the patients while their caregivers might be at work. So somewhere they can drop their family members off and they're cared for throughout the day. We're at the Love Kitchen. Our engineering group spent a week out at the Love Kitchen preparing meals, you can see here, and serving food to the homeless. We love the animal shelter. Everybody loves to go and care on the animals. So we're just trying to, I say all that to say that we're trying to offer a variety of different opportunities for our employees to get out there and give back. Not only are we volunteering at these agencies, but we're also doing some educational outreach. Our employees are going out. We're going out with our live voltage energy, our live voltage display. Well, we're talking about utility safety, and we're doing that in the schools, we're doing it in daycares, but we also have our customer counselors and our customer support folks that are also out there talking about energy efficiency programs. We're trying to promote and educate our customers as well. So not only are we giving up our time and service, both from a volunteer perspective, but we're also touching them and trying to educate them as well about our services. In addition to volunteering at those agencies, we do have employees that serve on a variety of nonprofit boards, and here's just a snapshot. We have a lot of employees that are out there, whether they're giving up their time serving at United Way, Salvation Army, or a variety of different opportunities, and it just gives us a chance to share our knowledge with those agencies as well. Program benefits. Not only does this program benefit KUB employees, because our employees love giving back, we love working and being involved in our community, but it benefits the community. It builds that goodwill and trust so that they don't just think about us from the electrical, the utility standpoint, but they also see that our employees value what they do, and that we feel like it's important that we have the opportunity to help them out in a volunteer capacity as well. Internally, it definitely boosts employee morale. Our employees love and look forward to the opportunity that they can go out, takes them out of their day-to-day routine, and give them an opportunity to do something that they enjoy doing as well. And it just also encourages that teamwork within the organization. It's been a good year for us. We were recognized previously by Salvation Army for our efforts and a couple of other organizations, but this year we also received the 2018 East Tennessee Corporation of the Year from Volunteer East Tennessee, and that was just something that where they recognize corporations for their volunteer efforts and what they do in the community. So we're very proud of this recognition. And that we want to continue to offer this opportunity for our employees and continue to grow this program. That being said, do y'all have any questions?
Leslie, does this work by KUB having a list of volunteer opportunities that you make available to your employees, or do the employees basically find those opportunities and let you know?
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. We have our KUB Cares Committee that look for opportunities and we promote them through our internal communications tools, but then we also have employees that may have an organization that they are passionate about and they can do it that way. So it's a little bit of both.
I know, Leslie, I guess I just want to say congratulations to the KUB staff and the employees from top to bottom. I can't think of a community organization that KUB doesn't have a presence. And it makes me really proud to serve as a commissioner of an organization that engages so well with the community. So snaps for everybody.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I'd like to recognize Mike Boland, Vice President of Utility Advancement, to give you an update on the natural gas supply issues we had this past month with the natural gas main failure out in Middle Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. Bolus. As y'all recall, I was here at the December board meeting, and we talked at the time about the incident that just happened prior to the board meeting. I'm going to now follow up on exactly how it all played out. As a reminder, on Saturday, December the 15th, East Tennessee Natural Gas Pipeline, which is owned by Enbridge, suffered a pipeline rupture over Smith County, Tennessee, specifically between Lebanon and Carthage, if you were trying to put it on the map somewhere. The pipeline segment that had the rupture is the pipeline segment that supplies the majority of the natural gas to the East Tennessee area in general and to KUB specifically. Our response to that pipeline outage was immediately we started using our liquefied natural gas, LNG storage, to supply natural gas to Knoxville as our initial reaction. After the dust settled a little bit from the first couple of days, we worked on obtaining alternative supplies of natural gas to serve Knoxville as well. The second thing we did was we have a class of customers, interruptible customers, who pay less rates in return for us having the ability to interrupt gas supply to them on occasions like this or peak weather sort of days. We curtailed supply to those interruptible customers, which lowered the gas supply requirements on our system. The third thing we did, which is unprecedented in my 30-something year career here, is we made a public appeal for conservation. We'll talk about that a little bit more. 2 weeks later, Saturday, December the 29th, the pipeline put the damaged section of pipe back into service, but at a reduced capacity from what it was before the incident occurred. A little more detail here. Again, you've seen this map a whole lot of times, but basically we receive our gas from a pipeline that goes from Texas up to New York City, basically, over around Nashville. The pipe we are served by is East Tennessee Natural Gas, which is the bright blue pipe here. It has two legs to it. A leg down here heads down towards Chattanooga. A leg over here heads over to Knoxville. They combine right here in Knoxville, right off Alcoa Highway, then heads all the way up to Roanoke, Virginia. That's generally speaking. If you look at our supply, the numbers are on here. The biggest portion of our supply comes right here on this particular piece of pipe, which is the piece of pipe that had the failure. So the LNG tank, which I've also talked about, is located right off Interstate 81, right there in Johnson City. If you're up there, you can see it. We have about a third of the capacity. That tank is controlled by KUB. So when the pipeline ruptured, big X there, there was no longer any supply flowing through there. So that's a huge impact to us and everybody else downstream of that piece of pipe. When the pipe has been fixed, the capacity to that piece of pipe, or at least our portion of the capacity to that piece of pipe, has now been reduced by 20% from what it was. So as we speak today, our capacity of providing natural gas from our traditional sources has been jeopardized or has been reduced from what it was. So a little more detail, again, before, our gas supply before, if you look at that pie, the two biggest pieces of that pie before was gas that was coming from purchases on Tennessee Gas Pipeline, which was coming from the Gulf of Mexico, basically, or Texas. The second largest piece of that pie was storage, natural gas we had in storage down in Louisiana that would be sourcing up here during the winter. Filled during the summer, sourced it up here during the winter. So that was where all of our gas was coming from before the incident. When the incident occurred, we had to rely immediately on the red portion of the pie there, which was our LNG tank. And then we developed alternative supply arrangements with other folks, primarily sourced on East Tennessee Gas Pipeline itself. That's where we bought most of our gas from during that period of time. Now the pipeline's back in service. Currently we're sourcing our gas once again, mainly from the Gulf of Mexico, Texas area, and then storage from Louisiana. So I talked about the LNG. This is the history of our use of the LNG for our system. LNG is a resource where they liquefy natural gas, store it in a tank, and you can use it one time. You cannot refill that tank, so it's an emergency resource you want to hoard. I mean, basically is what you do, you hoard it. So historically, we only use it during very, very cold spells. Typically, it'd be a 2 or 3 day cold spell. We might use a little bit because our demand will really go high when it gets really, really cold. You can see so far this fiscal year, we've used it more than we used in the past decade. The other thing that's noteworthy about this particular usage here is it basically all occurred in just a couple of days. We have really high withdrawal rights out of that storage supply, but it's only a limited duration. So we've used a lot of that, but thankfully we didn't use any more than we did. The other thing we did, that I talked about, is we interrupted our customers that we have the contractual right to do that with. Again, you look at a decade look at how we've done that in the past. And you can see this year, outdoes anything in the past decade. I tell you, if you went back 20 years, it would outdo the number of days of curtailment over the last 20 years. The other thing that's noteworthy about this is historically, when we interrupt a customers, just like the LNG, it might be for 2 or 3 days at a time. And people are sort of geared to be able to do with that, the businesses are. In this case, they were interrupted for 13 days in a row. And so the customers that were impacted by this had to make alternative supply arrangements, like arrange for continuous trucks full of fuel oil to hit their facility and then turn around and go get more fuel oil and turn around and go. It's typically very, very large customers that do this. So it was a challenge for the customers to comply, and I applaud them for all their efforts in helping us through the situation. The other thing, again, that I talked about that we did was make appeals for public conservation. First thing I'll talk about is the joint press release we did with the other area utilities. You may not be familiar with all these. In the upper left there, JCCD, that's Jefferson County Utility District. They serve Jefferson City, they serve Newport, that sort of region right there. PCUD is Powell Clinch Utility District. They serve Clinton, they serve Lake City, they serve La Follette, up generally that's a particular area. Of course, LCB, no. ORUDs, Oak Ridge Utility District, they serve Oak Ridge. Then Sevier County Utility District serves Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, that area. If we'd had more time, we'd got the Rockwoods and we got everybody else as well. I mean, this all came together very, very quick in one afternoon. It was very helpful to get the word out on a big geographic area that it's not, all this issue was not a KUB issue, this was a whole region issue that occurred here. And I'll tell you, we also made direct phone calls to some of our largest firm customers, like UT. UT, for example, took all kinds of efforts and ways they went about turning down their heat and lots of buildings. They have lots of buildings. Green Mountain Coffee, that's a big producer of the pods here, coffee pods here in Knoxville. They took extraordinary steps to help. And then we had a lot of response from a lot of folks, including individual households, to conserve, which helped us all get through this. So we appreciate all that very, very much. So as we go look forward in time, as I mentioned, while the pipe has been fixed, it's at a reduced capacity. We're still needing to look and monitor our gas supply situation. We will still continue to source some of our gas in a non-traditional way, if you will. For those customers that have interruptible customers, we have interruptible rights to, the likelihood's high that sometime the remainder of this winter we'll likely have more curtailments for those customers. So we've informed them that, and the weather will tell whether there's a need to do that or not. Talking to the pipeline, they anticipate going back and doing some more work to certify the return of that section of pipe to full service after the heating season. They'll take the pipe down for another couple-week period in order to accomplish that. But that will be done under a scheduled environment, not on a Saturday afternoon kind of emergency deal, and also being a time in which the flows on the pipeline itself is a whole lot less, so the issues surrounding the outage there will be diminished. Clearly, all the customers and the pipeline themselves are going to get back together after this heating season to talk about the future and the circumstances surrounding this event, and I think it will affect our future supply planning as we go forward. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Why is the pipeline not back at capacity if it's repaired?
Because they are still searching and analyzing exactly what occurred. And when they put it back together, they weren't in a position, unless they took a lot more time than what they did, to do what's called hydro tests, where they would fill that section of pipeline with water, and they'd pressurize it up, real high to make sure the integrity was good. So rather than go through that step to certify it back at a certain level, it was at a reduced capacity. And their work's done with the PHMSA, which is a Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, something. Anyway, the federal regulators are involved with the appropriate pressures to put it back in service.
The map you showed that showed the sort of southern leg of the supply,
Yes, ma'am?
was there a reason why we were limited? Why
Yes.
there's a limited amount that comes from that direction?
Yes, ma'am. Everybody along the south line started over to here. So there's like Fayetteville, Shelbyville, Tullahoma, Tracy City, and over to Chattanooga. Every one of them have rights to this capacity and are using this capacity to serve them. Okay, so what's left at this point is not much, because they're all taken out over here. And actually, there's a connect right here that's actually heading down toward Atlanta. But in any event, this capacity is used to serve people along through here. It really is not designed to wrap around like this. We have a little bit that's able to make that curve, if you will, up to Knoxville. But generally speaking, it's all taken before it gets to us. So, and that's part of the ways we were able to serve ourselves, is as these folks weren't using all their gas supply, there was a capability to sell to us if they weren't using it. So, and thankfully we had warm weather as well.
Is it always a requirement for a customer of a certain size to be interruptible?
No, but the economics, well, two answers. One of the surprising deals you'll find for interruptible customers, a whole lot of them are hospitals. And you think about a hospital really needs to have backup generators. They need to have backup fuel for if there's a natural gas incident, if you will. So hospitals are real natural, since they're already required to have the backup facilities anyway. Why not get the lower rate from us? Then if you get the larger manufacturing type outfits, again, the economic incentive for lower rates for us versus whatever production downtime they have to have, or the backup facilities they have to install. Again, the economics work for them. And then if you went and looked at, if you're a lot of these folks, you're looking at this right here. You're looking at this and saying, hey, it's not going to happen that often, once every 2 or 3 years, I might have an inconvenience in return for us charging them lower rates all the time. So it's a situation that works for all parties. It's a benefit for all of our customers for us to have these interruptible customers that we can take offline during cold days. Otherwise, if we were back here contracting with a pipeline, instead of needing like 80,000 decatherms there in that north line right there, we might need 110,000. We'd have to contract for even more to serve them on a very cold day. So.
But it's not a requirement based on their
It's not a
size, that
requirement.
it's voluntary, they make that choice.
They do, but generally speaking, the bigger you are, the more likely the economics work for you.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Mike, a lot of this is unprecedented, kind of like the '93 storm. What are some things that we've learned from this that maybe we can address later on?
Well, not just us, but the pipeline itself, I think, has learned a lot. One of the things is that there are some other people we can buy gas from that I didn't know. There is for example, there is a power plant, whoops, I used the wrong button there. There's a power plant way down here in Dalton, Georgia, that's not even on the East Tennessee system. It's owned by Oglethorpe Power, which is an electric cooperative. They actually source their gas off this pipeline over here, and they bring it up this way, then down this way, all the way to Dalton. So, but that path happens to go right past us. So Mr. Coley is actually in the process of helping us with a contract with that power company that from time to time might have excess supply to sell to us. So we've learned more possibilities to source gas here in Knoxville is a real big part of what we've learned, I think. So I've been very, very happy with that. I think it's helped us, and I think it's helped particularly the interruptible customers learn a little bit about their capabilities. They really, since we do it so seldom, they have to relearn a little bit every time. And maybe there's some more investment in their equipment they'll be taking on. So I think it has made a real good benefit in that regard.
We've heard presentations about how the quality of our water has helped attract companies to this region.
Mm-hmm.
Is the same potentially true for our ability to get gas from multiple sources as a potential selling point for corporations to move here and
Potentially, I mean, generally speaking, I won't speak for our economic development folks, but a lot of times it's the cheap power. TVA power is what generates an awful lot of our industrial customers that look and locate here. Natural gas, while even when these largest customers, it's a big amount, but compared to their power side of their business, it's generally speaking very small. So I think we're competitive on our natural gas rate, but I don't think it's necessarily something that drives people to locate.
Well, and not a question, but just a comment. I think all of us on the board are very appreciative of how this whole process went. As you've shown us, this hasn't come into play very often, but to have the planning that you all had done and have processes in place to know what needed to be done in this case, kept it from getting to be what could have been a false situation for us. So thank you for your foresight, for doing everything that you did to get us through this.
Thank you very much.
I'll echo what you're saying. We have what we didn't talk about. We have a lot of employees working on Christmas Day, New Year's Day, to make sure we were keeping the system. It's the unsung heroes behind the whole thing. A lot of people gave a lot of hours on days they should have been doing other things probably, but it was that how important it was to us. So I want to echo what you're saying. Appreciate that.
Thank you for mentioning that, because I do remember when I was on Christmas break on vacation, getting email updates, and that meant that somebody was working. So I'm glad you mentioned that. It should be recognized.
All right, moving on. I have a list of several folks who have signed up to speak today. Is everyone on this list? Everyone has signed up that's here to speak. All right, then you're going to have 5 minutes to make your comments. And when there is 1 minute remaining, the yellow light on the podium will go on, and I am assured that it's working now. When your time is up, the red light will go on. So and that will be your cue that your time is up to please stop at that point. Our first individual that has signed up to speak is Ray Hyde.
Yes, ma'am. One of the best decisions that's been made by the board in years, and I've been around KUB way since Chili Dean, was when you appointed that man right there. Now, he said I could call him Gabe. Can I do that in front of all you? This man will take KUB into the future for the next 15 years like a light. But now, how can I say that unless I can prove it? I have to back it up. Well, let me tell you a story. I'm the spokesman for the seniors. You wouldn't believe that, would you, Tim? In Luttrell. Gracie came to me, and Gracie's 80, and she said, Ray, what is a basic service fee? I said, let's do this. Let me get on the phone to KUB. They have teams and such as that that'll come out and explain to you and tell you what things are. Good idea. You ready for this road? You better get on a mule because we're going up a hill. I get on the phone, start down here and talk to Mandy. Mandy's a delightful woman. Tell her what we want. We want somebody to come up and explain to us. And the next fella I get is a guy by the name of Sam. Sam didn't know how to handle it. So Sam has a fellow named Tim Cox to call him. Great guy. You need to look into him, Gabe. That boy's got potential, yes. And he said, yeah, there's no reason why we can't come up there. That's what we do, public service. I said, great. So I go back and tell the girls, Gracie's happy. Breakfast is going to be ready. You know, old people. 2 days later, I get a call from a true KUB bully. I need to let that sink in, don't I? A fella by the name of Harley Bryant called me, and in this tone, we will not be up there. That was scary. They're taking my time off. We will not be up there. We don't do that. We're not coming. Gabe, we went over your head on this one. Let me tell you what we've done. They told me if I had questions, I had to come to the board. Well, that's crazy. All of that should have been handled right down here where they're paid to do it. They sold you out on that one. Now, the next thing he said, Don Mitterrand, I think that's her last name, if it's not, please forgive me. Don Mitterrand said, we are not coming. Take your questions to the board. Well, I shouldn't be here. I had a park and all such as that. I shouldn't be here. Gabe, that should have been handled right down there. Now, I get on the phone to Gabe, call up there. His secretary says, yeah, hold on a minute. So she gives him a message. You're precious, by the way. And guess what happened? That is one of the most powerful men in the state of Tennessee. He don't know it yet. But he will, and so will the employees. He gets on the phone, calls me back, and we backslapped 15 minutes. I had this the best old boy. And he said to me, he said, let me see what I can do. So they came out, he took care of it, they came out, everything was in order, and they did what they should have done to start with. Thank you. But now, another reason I'm here, I'm going to ask this board to investigate Harley Bryant, Bully Bryant, and it's on video, it's on the tape downstairs where he was rude, he did not care, he didn't have the attitude. And I'm also going to ask that Don Mitterrand be investigated as to why it had to go all the way to the executive committee, something as simple as that. It was so simple. Just come out and talk to us. Old people, old people. We did get it taken care of because of you, God bless you, because of you. Now, this guy, like I said, will lead us into the next 15 years. Here's why. He loves KUB, and he's a pro. He loves KUB, but he has something that the previous administration did not have. He has a thing called compassion for the people. For the people. And if you don't believe it, here's an old boy up in the Luttrell, and that guy right there, the future. Hey, Ray, what's going on, man? Yeah. That's what we got. We've got the future. We've got a future, Tim. We've got a future. All right. God bless every one of y'all. I'm going down to the lunchroom with y'all. You know why? He invited me. Did you hear that? That good man said, come on down to the lunchroom. That's where I'm going with y'all. May I? God bless you, David. You're a good man.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde.
Yes, ma'am.
The next name on our list is Tara Lady Wilson.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiara Lady Wilson. I am a proud native of Knoxville, Tennessee. And due to disease, I was forced into retirement after serving with the YMCA of East Tennessee. So I am very familiar with the good work that KUB has done because you always sponsored a lot of our events. Today, I am thankful and honored to stand before you all to share with you all my energy burden story. We are all a disease, death, divorce, or lack of deposit from being classified as poor. This is my story. And before I get into the story, I want to encourage the board to think about deregulation. I used to work for a company, and it was a home-based business. And that company offered energy to residents. Unfortunately, because we live in an area that is run by TVA, people don't have deregulation options or freedom. So I challenge you all as a board to fight so that Tennessee and other regions that are supplied their energy from TVA, we can have options. Because right now we don't. So I stand before you to ask the board to freeze the fees. Here's how the fees affect me personally. You see, I do everything in my power as someone who gets the highest amount of disability, which is less than $2,000, to make sure that I'm able to keep myself and my children warm in the winter and cool in the summertime, but that never happens because I don't get enough of money every month to be able to pay my utility bills. And I do everything in my power to be a financial steward. Because I only get gas in the wintertime, I said, well, let me turn off my gas. Because that would be financially savvy, right? Not to pay for something that I'm not using. So every winter, I would turn off my gas. But what we fail to realize is that utilities are corresponded with affordable housing. So every time I turn off my gas, I get an eviction notice. Why did you turn off your utilities? Well, then I have to explain to them why I turn it off so that I can save money and I can use that money to feed and provide for my children. But here's the thing. I save money, so I think, until it's time for me to turn that gas back on. Last year, I was told right before the storm, it was a Friday, I called and said, hey, I need my gas cut back on. That snowstorm is getting ready to come. Well, I was told, well, it would be $40 today, or we can turn it on for $20 on Monday. Well, I couldn't go a whole weekend without heat. So I paid the what? I paid the $40. Well, this year, I did the same thing. And what happened? I was told, in order to get my gas turned back on, the same day, it was going to be $40. If I wanted to do it the next business day, it was going to be $60. So all the money that I had saved by not having the gas on was really not a saving. Because I had to pay a service fee for that gas to be turned back on. So I'm standing before you all not to say, we understand fees are necessary. We really do. But when you're already in a class that seems to be poverty pimped all the time, that's what I like to call it. Because a subclass of people are in a certain position, we don't have the money, and because of deregulation, or the lack thereof, we don't have another choice. We have to deal with KUB because there's no other choices for us. And so it is so burdensome that when you can't pay your bill, you have to deal with an $8 fee to embarrass you. An $8 fee to put a tag on your door. That's embarrassing. So today, I'm not the only one asking you all to freeze the fees. Along with SACE and Renew Tennessee, we have over 800 people who have signed the petition to say, please freeze the fees and help us not to continue to pay these fees that we are burdened with every month. Amen. Is it okay, madam, if we present these to you? Thank you, and thank you so much for what you all do. Thank you.
The next individual on our list is Bobby Clark.
Good afternoon. I'm in no way a speaker like the former speaker. I'm nervous to be around people, but today I'm here not only on behalf of myself and my husband, but on behalf of the elderly community in Knoxville, mainly my aunt and uncle. And if I get emotional, I will apologize because my uncle passed away just a few weeks ago. He and my aunt live in a 1,000 square foot house in Knoxville. She is now 80. He was 81. They have fought to keep their electric bills low. They have put kerosene in their house, turned the electricity completely down. They use one small portable heater. Yet their electric bill this month was $600 for a 1,000 square foot house. They've had to sacrifice medications. They've had to sacrifice healthy foods. They've had to borrow money from family members to keep their electricity on and to keep the oxygen that he needed to keep him alive. Well, Thanksgiving Day, something happened to their electricity. It got turned off. She borrowed money, she got the electricity turned back on, but he developed pneumonia. He already had lung disease, so a few days later he got put in the hospital and he never came out. So now she has lost not only her lifetime partner, but she has also lost the majority of her income. We do not know at this point how she is going to be able to stay where she lives, where they have made their life and their memories. She has family that wants her to come and live with them, but she wants to stay in her home. But with electric bills like she is having to pay, there is absolutely no way that's going to be able to happen. The increased fees that keep happening, and I know it's 300% since 2010, she can't afford those. Most people in Knoxville can't afford those. We are talking about people that live on a fixed income. Their rates increase, but their income doesn't. They have food stamps, which helps with the food, but it's not enough. So I ask you to please, on the behalf of people like them in Knoxville, please consider alternative energy. Please consider freezing these fees because we are destroying lives. And I thank you for your time.
The next person signed up to speak is Laura Humphrey.
Thank you for having me again, Board. Kathy, welcome to your new position. It's always good to see ladies and women in leadership. I'm really glad that you all presented today and actually focused on your mission statements and health and safety. It actually made me think about the list that I'm holding in my hand here. This is a list actually of not only the 800 people who have signed the petition to freeze the fixed fees, but it's about 120 people who submitted stories to us about how the fees and high electric bills are impacting their life. So essentially, this list could be viewed as a list that KUB might not be acting as good stewards of their resources. There might even be injury. Perhaps, as Gabe mentioned, the board would consider this encouragement of a team rather than an individual or an organization. Just like your organization, we can't continue to let unaffordable energy continue to be an issue. We can't continue to let there be injury in our community. So that's one reason we've continued to be here, continue to speak out, and continue to bring voices to you all at every meeting. You may just think of it as just $1, right? It's not that big of a deal. It's just $1 and everyone can understand $1. I would like to say that yes, I agree that everybody on this list and everybody I think who is speaking today understands $1, maybe even more than you do. So please keep that in mind. I'm going to read a couple of these. I know that I won't have time to get through them all, so today I'm just going to say that 5 minutes isn't enough and that $19 is too much. So, first of all, I'm gonna start with Beverly. She says that she's on a fixed income. She can't afford lights this high. She needs food and meds. My bill goes from $140 to $160 to over $340 in 1 month, and I change nothing. The fees are too high for the working class. Another gentleman says, his name is Daniel, he said, as a landlord, I have an empty house and I'm charged a basic service fee, even if I use no service or minuscule amounts. The time that this happened, I used $8.87 worth of power, about 100 kilowatt hours, and some natural gas. I didn't even register the water on the meter, and yet I was charged a $19 service fee for electric, $10 for gas, $17 for water, and then $33 for sewer, and I didn't even use any. My usage was actually $11.36, but my bill was a whopping $91.11. How is that fair? When I first started being a landlord, my bills were much more fair, and being charged for what I use. Now I'm being charged huge amounts for what I don't even use of a service. Apparently, it must be an extraordinary privilege just to be connected. As I continue here, Linda says, I'm a 72-year-old and I have lots of medical bills and take lots of medicine, which I have copays on. I also live on a limited amount of money. It's really hard for me to pay copays on my doctors and my medicine and afford food, and much less having to pay an even higher fee for utilities. Another lady said, I'm a single mother. My KUB bill is now more than my monthly rent. I was having a hard time before the rate increase. They're making my life impossible. This was really hard to read, actually. And people wonder why other people are turning to suicide and drugs and can't afford to feed their kids, let alone ourselves. Then Tashawn said, hi, actually, I have firsthand experience with a high bill. My summertime bill was around $50, but then I tried to use heat in the winter and it went up to almost $300. It's either we choose to freeze inside the house or have outrageous bills. Finally, I just want to share one comment that I thought summed everything up really, really nicely. And a lady named Barbara said, it's just that much less heat or air conditioning I get to afford. And I think that's a great way to put it, by moving everything into a fixed fee. It's just one less kilowatt hour of heat or air conditioning that they get to use. Thank you, board. I appreciate your time today and hope you will consider some of these stories.
Thank you, Ms. Humphrey. We have one more to speak, all right.
Please forgive me. For one, I didn't know if I could do this. And for two, I'm scared to death.
That's fine. Just tell us your name and your address, please.
My name is Dixie Halverson, and I live at 6707 Old Rutledge Pike. I'm outside of the city. I'm in the county. I don't get the sewer. I don't get the trash pickup. I don't get any water from you guys. My bill jumps hundreds. And quite frankly, I'm not eligible for disability. I'm a housewife. I didn't put into Social Security, so they don't give me anything. My husband's a truck driver. He gets paid by the mile. If he doesn't drive, he doesn't get paid. We can't pay our bills. I pay $220 for a car that's used every month. I have to pay for my own insurance because my husband's insurance in his company was $600 a month just to have me on it. Now I have to pay $300 plus a month so that I can have some kind of insurance. I'm disabled. I need my ankle fused. I need my other knee replaced. I have chronic degeneration of my L5 through L7 of my back with arthritis sitting right on top of the same spot. So I'm not capable of standing somewhere in an entry-level job at some factory. I'm not educated enough, apparently, to get a job where I could sit and work on a computer. I'm sorry. I am not a very educated person. But I do understand that $19 for me goes to another payment, another thing that I have to pay for. And my husband, he didn't get holiday pay. 2 weeks off. No running, no money. So now I'm behind on bills again, just as I was starting to get caught up. These fees are getting to be outrageous. A $20, $19, a flat rate may not seem like much to any of you, but to me, it's some more groceries. To me, it's another piece towards another payment. To me, it's too much. I can't afford to go from 150 for electric. And let me say, I use energy efficient lights. I don't use my lights hardly at all. I use one in the living room by night. I use my computer, it's a laptop. You're not the only ones who are, if you'll excuse me, having to make me pay tons of money for little things that I use. I don't understand. I don't understand how we, like myself, people like myself, we aren't seen. We're a minority to a lot of people, and that's not true. We're a majority. I have a house that's from 1930. I really doubt that anybody has ever changed the windows. I can't afford to have them changed. I have no idea where to go to get help. I'm sorry, but this is too much. I don't know what else to do. I have nothing else to say, except thank you for listening. I appreciate it, but I do hope that you'll take into consideration people like myself and like the young lady that spoke first. We are a lot more than you think, but we're in a really, really bad place. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, then following the adjournment of this meeting, the board will have a lunch session across the hall that is open to the public. The meeting is adjourned.